In this video, we're going to take a look at some number sense and try to find two numbers that you can multiply to get C that add to get B. So for our first example, we are looking for what two numbers can we multiply to get 24 that add to get 10. Well, if I'm looking for numbers that multiply to get 24, then I need to figure out what are all of my factors of 24. So I'm going to come over here and create a factor table. So in my factor table, I know I can always list 1 as one of the factors, so 1 and the number 24. Next, I use division to see if a number can go into 24 evenly. So 24 divided by 2 would get me 12. 24 divided by 3 would get me 8. 24 divided by 4 would get me 6. 24 divided by 5, I get a decimal, so that one does not get listed. And then the next number I come to is 6. Well, 6 is already over here, so that tells me I can stop filling in my factor table. So next, I have 4 pairs of factors. I'm looking for which pair of these factors would add up to get me a positive 10. Well, if I look here, I know I can take 1 plus 24. Well, that gets me 25. 2 plus 12 gets me 14. 3 plus 8 gets me 11, and 4 plus 6 gets me 10. Well, the pair that I'm looking for needs to add up to 10, so this is the pair that works. So 4 and 6 would be the two numbers that I'm looking for. My second example, what can I multiply to get 30 that will add to get negative 13? So once again, I'm going to create a factor table for 30. And I'm going to list all the factors, 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10. 4 does not divide evenly into 30. 5 does, 5 and 6. And then 6 would be the next number I would check, but it's already over here, so that tells me that I can stop. Well, this time, it multiplies to get me a positive 30, but it adds to get me a negative 13. Well, if you recall from your multiplication facts, a negative times a negative would equal a positive. So this information right here tells me that both of my numbers are going to be negative numbers. So I'm going to make all these negative. And now we can go through and check with addition. So I'm looking for them to add up to a negative 13. So negative 1 plus negative 30 gets me a negative 31. Negative 2 plus negative 15 gets me negative 17. Negative 3 plus negative 10 gets me negative 13. Negative 5 plus negative 6 gets me negative 11. Well, I was looking for the pair that added up to get a negative 13, and I got it right there. So my two numbers are negative 3 and negative 10. For my next example, what two numbers can I multiply to get negative 18 that add to get 3? So I know that they need to multiply to get 18. I'll worry about the negative in a second. So I've got 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6, 4 doesn't go, 5 doesn't go, 6 is the next number I come to, and it's already over here, so I can stop. Well, this time, it multiplies to get a negative. Well, I know that a positive times a negative is the only way that I can get a negative number when I multiply. And additionally, I know that these two numbers need to add together to get me a positive 3. Well, the only way that can happen is if the larger of the two numbers is positive and the smaller of the two numbers is negative. Well, if you've done your table right, all of my smaller numbers are going to be on this left side. So now when I go through and add, I've got negative 1 plus negative 18 gets me 17. Negative 2 plus 9 gets me 7. Negative 3 plus 6 gets me 3. And that's what I was looking for, was something to add up to get a positive 3. So negative 3 and 6 were my two answers. My last example, it needs to multiply to get a negative 20. So we're going to list 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 3 doesn't go, 4 and 5. It multiplies to get a negative. It also adds to get a negative. So that tells me that the larger of my two numbers are going to be negative. When I add these together, this gets me a negative 19. This gets me a negative 8. This one gets me a negative 1. These are what my two numbers would be then, 4 and negative 5.